Hi everyone. I wanted to talk today about using Marketo data and Marketo lists in the FunnelEnvy platform and integrating those to Optimizely. So I'm going to walk you through some setup steps today. You'll see how easy it is to get those Marketo lists over into Optimizely using the FunnelEnvy platform. Um, before we start this, just some use cases where we see this being used. Obviously, targeting existing leads in your Marketo database, and based on context. So uh, if they've done a certain activity on the site, if they're MQLs, if they're about to be MQLs, if they're lower on down the funnel, targeting by certain job descriptions. I mean, these are all pretty common use cases for that we see to use Marketo data in Optimizely for the purposes of personalization to your existing leads. So let's get started. Um, First off, this is the FunnelEnvy platform. And what you're seeing here is the audience view. And if you're not familiar, audiences are, kind of the backbone of the platform. Audiences are backed by data sources, and these can be first-party data sources like Clearbit or Demandbase or Kickfire, or first-party data sources like Marketo and Salesforce. So, what we want to do if you're setting up this integration is first make sure that the integrations are set up and that Optimizely and Marketo are active. And if you're just activating these for the first time, you're going to have to put in your API keys, and it's pretty straightforward. And once those are in there, FunnelEnvy will connect to both Optimizely and Marketo. On the Optimizely side, we support both Optimizely Classic, Optimizely X Web Experimentation, and Optimizely X Personalization. So it'll work with all of those products. The other setup piece is making sure that you have the FunnelEnvy snippet on your site. So if you go under Settings and get Embed Code, you'll see here the embed script. You want to put that on your site. You can do that either through a tag management solution or directly on your site, and that's pretty much it. Once you've got the integration set up and the FunnelEnvy script, that is pretty much the setup work that needs to be done. So to switch over to Marketo really quickly, you'll see here, this is Marketo, and here I've got some, test lists that I've created that I want to be pulling over. So these are what you'll be looking at. Obviously, in a typical Marketo production environment, you'll have many more lists, but we'll be able to access, all of them once the API keys are in there and we're able to talk to Marketo. So back to FunnelEnvy. If you to start syncing a list to one of our audiences, you'll have to click on the Add Audience button. And here in terms of audience type, you will pick the Marketo as the audience type, and then import it as the subtype. Imported means that we will be importing those lists from Marketo on a batch basis and keeping our audience in sync with it. We do also have the option to integrate with on an attribute by attribute basis from your lead table in Marketo, and set conditions that way. Typically, that uses up more API, so that's usually done for lower traffic sites, or if you've increased your Marketo API quota. So once I pick imported, you'll see a drop down here of the various lists available that you can import. If you check one of these and hit create audience, check one or more of these and then hit create audience, it'll import into FunnelEnvy and synchronize that audience in FunnelEnvy with that Marketo list on an ongoing basis, and in a batch interval with no additional interference required. Currently, that batch scheduling happens every few hours, and it'll go fetch the list from Marketo and refresh the data that we have in FunnelEnvy. So if I import the list, my list, and hit create audience, you should see, if I sort by type, you should see the list, the audience my list created with the Marketo logo next to it. That tells you that it is a imported audience. If I go into that audience that I've just created, you can see here that it says my list imported, and I have the various integrations that I can send this audience to. For Optimizely, it's really straightforward. Our integration just requires that you check that box in Sync with Optimizely under the Optimizely tab, hit Save the Audience. And what that actually will do is push that that audience over to Optimizely with the same name. It'll create a custom audience in Optimizely that you can use for targeting your experiments, and that's pretty much it. And that audience, and anytime someone visits that site that is in that list, they'll be bucketed into the FunnelEnvy audience, and if there's a corresponding Optimizely audience, they'll be pushed into that Optimizely audience. So to see how that works, if I am in Optimizely and I refresh my audiences page, you'll see here that my list was created, and this is today's date. So in FunnelEnvy, to show this in action, I've actually brought over several lists from our Marketo instance, and I'm sorting by type. So you can see here I've got active customers, leads that have downloaded a white paper, MQLs, SQLs, and viewed product page. These are lists that I've created before and previously synchronized over. And these have also been integrated over to Optimizely. So the very same audiences that are created in FunnelEnvy appear with the same name in Optimizely, and I can use them for experiments. And in fact, we have done so and created a demonstration campaign. This is Optimizely personalization, and a set of experiences. One targeted at each one of those audiences that I've created. So this experience actually runs on this page here. It's a demonstration page that we use, and the important thing to pay attention to is the call to action. The call to action, this is the default page. This is what we're going to be changing in each of those experiences based on the audience, which again corresponds to a list that I have in Marketo. So to show you an example of that, here is the active customer experience, and if I go into the settings of this experience, you'll see that it's targeted to the active customers audience in Marketo in Optimizely. Again, at this point you don't have to go back to FunnelEnvy at all. This list is automatically kept in sync once it's set up to synchronize over to Optimizely. There's no more manual work involved. So the experience is targeted at this audience. And if I look at the variation, you can see here that the call to action has changed. It says active customer page, and again, the default was the default page. So if a user is in that active customer list in Marketo, they will see this experience here where the call to action has changed. So this is actually a live campaign that we're running. So let's switch over. We're going to switch over to an incognito window to see this in action. So this is the experience. So this is a visitor that is in, this is what a visitor would see in that active customer page. I do have, and again, you can see the CTA has changed to active customer. I have the Optimizely debug tracking on, and you can see here that they have been bucketed into an Optimizely audience. This is the ID for the active customer audience, and that has triggered the campaign, which changes the call to action. So that's pretty much it. Once you've integrated over Marketo lists into FunnelEnvy, you can sync them over to Optimizely audiences. They're kept up to date automatically and on a batch basis, and then you can use them in your campaigns directly from Optimizely. Thanks for your time, and happy testing.